canceling that request. All right, let's have a look at this now. In a television quiz, in a television quiz show, Peter answers questions one after another, stopping as soon as the question is answered wrongly. So आपने quiz shows देखे होंगे इस तरह के, so हमारे बचपन में तो होता था वो कौन बनेगा करोड़पति. You got similar shows these days as well. You keep winning until you keep answering questions correctly, right? जब आपका wrong answer हो जाए तो you just stop at that point, right? The game stops at that point. ठीक है, जितना आपने जो है वो हाँ तो आजकल वो फवाद खान होते हैं. फवाद खान नहीं, फवाद खान है, फवाद खान है. I'm not even aware. Fahad Mustafa, Fahad Mustafa. Fawad Khan is somebody else. Okay, yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry for being ignorant, but that's just, I'm not aware of these things. Okay, so in a television quiz show, Peter answers questions one after another, stopping as soon as the question is answered wrongly. Okay, now the probability that Peter gives the correct answer himself to any question is 0.7. Okay, so खुद से उसकी probability सही आंसर करने की 0.7, that's here. आपको previous में बनाया हुआ नीचे बना के दिया हुआ है. Okay. The probability that Peter gives a wrong answer himself to any question is 0.1. Okay, so correct answer की 0.7 है और wrong answer की 0.1 है. Now the probability that Peter decides to ask for help for any question, जिस तरह lifelines होती थी in that show. So it's sort of a lifeline that you can call a friend, you can ask the audience and things like that. So the probability that this person asks for help for any question is 0.2. Okay, that was the probability यहाँ पे भी show है on the tree diagram. Now it says on the first occasion that Peter decides to ask for help, he asks the audience. Okay, on the first occasion that Peter decides to ask for help, he asks the audience. Acha, okay, so the first time he decides to ask for help, वो audience से पूछेगा. Okay, एक तो possibility ये कि वो audience से पूछ सकते हैं इसके अंदर. The probability that the audience gives the correct answer to any question is 0.95. अगर 0.95 जो है वो correct answer की probability है तो wrong answer की probability क्या होगी? That's 0.05. So this is what you are shown in this tree diagram already. ठीक है? Correct answer दे सकता है, wrong answer दे सकता है, या फिर वो help के लिए जो है वो के लिए जा सकता है. And what it does for help is he asks the audience. In this case, the first time he asks for help. यहाँ पे उसने क्या किया? Audience से पूछा और उसकी probability of being correct is 0.95. The probability of being wrong is 0.05. Now, in the first part, it says show that the probability that the first question is answered correctly is 0.89. Now, let's think about this. How can your question be answered correctly here? What possible outcomes are there? You can either have, Peter answer that question correctly himself, right? So that's 0.7, Eamon. Yeah, that's correct. So that's this probability that Peter answers correctly himself. लेकिन उसके साथ साथ ये भी possibility है that he asks for help and then the audience answers correctly. The audience answers correctly, right? So there's two possible pathways that you can follow. This first pathway gives you 0.7, right? What is 0.7 probability? There's no multiplication that you require there. दूसरा pathway आपको क्या देता है? That's 0.2 into 0.95. अब इन दोनों में से कोई भी possible है. 0.7 भी हो सकता है, ये भी हो सकता है. What you do is you add both of them. There's an R between them. ठीक है? तो हम दोनों को add करते हैं. Remember our golden rule for tree diagrams: horizontally we multiply, vertically we add things. So हमने यहाँ पे ये figure out कर लिया. Then we add these two things, 0.7 plus 0.2 into 0.95. The total देगा आपको, that is going to be 0.89. This is what you had to show. All right. Okay, yeah, very good. So it's he either himself answers it correctly or the audience answers correctly. So that's the probability shown there. Okay, let's see what are we supposed to do next. Now, on the second occasion that Peter decides to ask for help, he phones a friend. Now, the probability that his friend gives the correct answer to any question is 0.65. Okay, the probability that his friend gives the correct answer to any question is 0.65. अच्छा ये कब होता है? On the second occasion that Peter decides to ask for help. ऊपर उसने क्या कहा था? The first time, on the first occasion that Peter decides to ask for help, मतलब गेम के दरमियान में जब भी फर्स्ट टाइम वो हेल्प का सोचेगा ना, पहली दफा वो ऑडियंस से पूछेगा और दूसरी दफा जब वो हेल्प के लिए जाएगा तो वो अपने फ्रेंड को फोन करेगा. That is what it shows. That is what it states there. अच्छा. Now the probability that his friend gives the correct answer to any question is 0.65. That's also given. Now find the probability that the first two questions are both answered correctly. First two questions are both answered correctly. It's a 6-mark question. That's a lot of marks. दो questions उसने correct mark किए हैं. Again, the first step is going to be able to draw the correct tree diagram here. Okay, and इसमें the actual calculation and probability terms में, that's fairly straightforward. It's the ability to be able to understand the given statement. The language skills, that's important, or being able to think logically कि अच्छा वो आपके पास वो steps क्या बनते हैं सारे in each of the different scenarios. उसके बाद जो actual calculation and that's going to be fairly straightforward. तो हमें वो देखते हैं कि tree diagram में exactly वो हर step के ऊपर क्या हो रहा है. ठीक है? We are going to consider what happens for two questions. ठीक है? Two questions in a row. अच्छा. अब अगर तो उसने पहली दफा wrong answer दे दिया, इसके बाद तो गेम वैसे खत्म हो जाएगी. We don't have anything after this. ये wrongly answer करने के बाद ना we don't have anything after that. So we just stop at that point, right? Because आपकी गेम वैसे खत्म हो जाती है. As soon as the question is answered wrongly, the game stops at that point. हमारे पास सिर्फ दो possibilities क्या हैं जिसके बाद गेम आगे चलेगी. One is this possibility here, and the other is this possibility here. इसके आगे जो है, we can have further possibilities. All right. Now let's think about this. अगर से किसी से भी आगे आप start कर दें पहले. So let's say first question उसने correct answer कर दिया. So this is the first question. अब second question के लिए उसके पास क्या क्या possibilities. So you see the probability that he gives correct answer himself to any question is 0.7. अभी भी वही probability है. The probability of giving a wrong answer is 0.1. The probability of asking for help is 0.2. वो probabilities वही हैं जो पहले थी. अगर आप उसने correct answer पहले खुद से दे दिया है, one possibility is that he answers it correctly himself. इसको हम C से mark कर देते हैं. What is the probability for that? That is 0.7. Okay. What is another possibility? Another possibility is that he answers it wrongly. What is the probability for that? That is 0.2. And the third possibility is that he asks for help. Achha, 0.1, sorry, 0.1 for answering wrongly. And the third possibility is that he asks for help, जिसको हमने 8 से represent कर लिया यहाँ पे. This probability is 0.2. Okay. All right. Now, if he asks for help here, now this point is really important. Does he ask for help? Does he ask the audience for help here, or does he ask a friend for help here? Audience से पूछेगा या वो अपने friend से पूछेगा? Okay. Think again. अब sequence understand करें. Peter answers the first question correctly himself. उसके बाद दो lifelines थी. वो audience से पूछ सकता है, friend से पूछ सकता है. He has two lifelines. फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन में उसने कोई लाइफलाइन नहीं यूज की, उसने खुद से आंसर करेक्ट दे दिया है, राइट? Second question में he still has both of these options. He can still ask the audience, he can still ask a friend. लेकिन उसने कहा है, on the first occasion that Peter decides to ask for help, he asks the audience. उसने first question में तो help ली नहीं थी. Second question में वो first type help के लिए जा रहा है. What is he going to do? He's going to ask the audience. So he's going to ask the audience, और audience के पर दो possibilities हैं. Audience can answer correctly. AC का मतलब यहाँ पे मैंने I'm representing this as audience answering correctly, and the other option is that audience answers wrongly. ये आपके पास दो possible outcomes बन गए यहाँ पे. Does this make sense? Extend कर दो यहाँ पे. This is audience giving correct answer, audience giving the wrong answer. What is the probability of audience giving a correct answer? That is 0.95. The probability of audience giving a wrong answer, that is 0.05. Right? Because audience का तो poll होता है ना, so of course the majority opinion wins, and it's very likely that the majority, you know, if it's a general knowledge question, let's say, so we can expect कि शायद it's very likely that the majority would converge to the right answer. The probability काफी high है of getting the right answer. ये हमारे पास वो part of the tree है in which the first question was answered by Peter correctly himself. Okay. दूसरा pathway क्या था? दूसरा pathway ये था कि first time क्या हो, Peter asks for help and the audience answers correctly. अब second question के लिए क्या क्या options हैं फिर से? Second question के लिए ये जो पूरा tree है ना पहले जो बना हुआ है, this is all for the first question. इसके आगे जो हम build कर रहे हैं, हम second question वाली possibilities build कर रहे हैं. हम इस path पे आ गए. Peter asks for help and he asks the audience who answer it correctly. The first question में ये सब हो गया है. अब second question में क्या क्या possibilities हैं? We got three possibilities. Either Peter answers the question correctly himself, right? दूसरा question उसने खुद से correct answer दे दिया. What is the probability for that? That's 0.7. Another possibility is the answers it wrongly. The probability for that is 0.1. And the third possibility here again is that he asks for help. That's the third possibility. He asks for help. ये हमारे पास third possibility यहाँ पे भी आ गई. और help की probability क्या थी यहाँ पे? 0.2. Now who does he ask for help? Does he ask the audience for help or does he ask his friend for help? आप किससे पूछेगा? Now he's going to ask the friend because वो audience वाली lifeline इस case के अंदर उसने already use कर ली in the first question. So now he's going to ask the friend. Now friend can answer correctly. Let's call that FC. Or friend can answer wrongly. Let's call that FW. Friend के correct answer की क्या probability थी? 0.65. We've got 0.65 here. And we've got 0.35 here. That's our tree. Once we have drawn that, the rest is fairly straightforward. आपको वो सारे cases देख लेने हैं जिन पे आपके पास दोनों questions correctly answer होते हैं, right? Now let me just highlight those cases here. There are going to be multiple cases, right? So one possibility, for instance, is that he answers both questions correctly himself. So पहला भी उसने खुद से correct answer दे दिया और उसने दूसरा भी खुद से correct answer दे दिया. This is one possible pathway, right? 0.7 into 0.7. Another possibility is, yes, exactly. So that's why it has 6 marks because its tree काफी complicated है. So 0.7 into 0.7. ये आपके पास पहली possibility आ गई. दूसरी possibility क्या है? 0.7 in the first case कि उसने खुद से answer कर दिया, and then the second time he asks for help or audience correct answer दे दे. ये एक और possibility आपके पास बन गई. ठीक है? So let me just चलिए तो इसको कंप्लीट कर लेते हैं। हमारे पास सेकंड पॉसिबिलिटी बन गई। दिस इज द सेकंड पाथवे, 0.7, 0.2 and 0.95 here. Third possibility क्या है? He asks for help. The audience answers correctly the first time, and he answers it correctly himself the second time. ये third possibility होगी। और fourth possibility पर क्या है? He asks for help the first time, audience answers correctly the first time, second time भी वो help पे जाता है, and the friend answers correctly. ये चार possible pathways आपके पास बनते हैं। Does this make sense to everyone? बस क्या क्या possibilities बनी? Correct himself, correct, and then audience correct, and then audience correct, and correct himself, and audience correct, and friend correct. ये चार possible outcomes आपके पास बन गए यहाँ। Does this make sense to everyone? ठीक है, अब हम क्या करेंगे, हम ये सारी probabilities calculate कर लेंगे और उनको add कर देंगे, right? So what do we have here? We've got 0.7 for the first case, दोनों correct उसने खुद ही दे दिए। That's going to be 0.7 into 0.7, ठीक है। Second possibility 0.7 into 0.2 into 0.95, ठीक है। 0.7, 0.2 into 0.95. Third possibility 0.2, 0.95, 0.7, 0.2 into 0.95 into 0.7. ये third possibility होगी। Fourth possibility is the 0.2 into 0.95 into 0.2 into 0.65. Right? वो पूरा pathway follow किया, उन सबको multiply किया probabilities को। What do we get there? We get 0.2 multiplied by 0.2 into 0.95 into 0.2 into 0.65. This is what we have. अब इन सबको हम क्या करेंगे, ऐड कर लेंगे और आप देखिए आपके पास क्या रिजल्ट आता है इससे। So are you getting 0.7877 or 0.781? So I've got three people saying 0.781. One is saying 0.7807 and Shahid is saying 0.7877. What exactly is it? इन सबको ऐड करें, देखें क्या आता है, इन सबको मल्टीप्लाई करके और ऐड करें। Somebody confirm to me, what do you get from this? What is the result? 0.781. Okay, all right, so 0.781. So let's go with the majority then. 0.781. 0.781. Okay, this is the total probability of answering both questions correctly. Is this fine to everyone? Any issues with this? Any problems with this? Again, I'm not sure. आप वही inverted commas में इसकी first line लिख दें Google के ऊपर और साथ 9709 लिख दें. You'll figure that out. You'll find that out. किस साल का है? I'm not sure about it. Okay, let's have a look at the last part now. Given that the first two questions were both answered correctly, so now you're given this 0.781 is your denominator now. Okay, this is what is given. Given this, find the probability that Peter asked the audience. Okay. So what we're interested in is probability that he asked the audience, let's call that A, given that both questions were answered correctly. ये probability आपको figure out करनी है. What is this going to be equal to? The probability of asking audience into both questions being correct. दोनों का intersection divided by the probability of both questions being correct. Right? Conditional probability वाला formula. अब ये denominator तो हमने already figure out कर लिया. Denominator तो हमने already यहाँ पे figure out कर लिया. That's 0.781 here. Right? Denominator we have figured out already. What about the numerator here? Numerator क्या होएगा? जब audience को पूछ रहे हो तो इन cases में आप देख लें audience से हम कहाँ पे पूछ रहे हैं. Audience वाले cases कौन से हैं? Audience वाले cases कौन से हैं यहाँ पे? एक तो ये वाला केस है, थर्ड केस, फोर्थ केस भी है और ये सेकंड केस भी है. फर्स्ट केस के अलावा बाकी सारे केसेस में ऑडियंस से आप पूछ रहे हो. फर्स्ट के अलावा बाकी सब में से आप ऑडियंस से पूछ रहे हो, है ना? तो बाकी तीनों को सम कर लें, या फिर आपको पता है कि टोटल 0.781 था, उसमें से फर्स्ट वाला केस निकाल दें, that's 0.49, 0.781 में से ये 0.49 निकाल दें, आपके पास ये तीनों केसेस आ जाएंगे. These are the cases when you asked the audience and at the same time your both answers were correct. Does that make sense to everyone? आपने क्या करना है, इन तीनों केसेस को ऐड करना है. ये तीनों केसेस इनको ऐड करना है, ठीक है? इसको ऐड कर लें आप अलग अलग से, या आपको पता है कि टोटल सम 0.781 है यहाँ पे, है ना? 0.781 में से आप एक पहला वाला केस निकाल दें, आपके पास आ जाएगा कि इन दोनों की इंटरसेक्शन क्या आ रही है. ठीक है, उनको ऐड करेंगे, आपके पास क्या आएगा आप खुद से चेक करें. आपके पास आना चाहिए 0.781 minus 0.49, that's going to be 0.299 299 or 291, I'm not sure. Can somebody confirm क्या आता है? 2907. Okay, 2907. अच्छा, आपके पास 0.7807 आ रहा था पहले, वो 7807 आ रहा था. Okay, so that was 707, the exact value. Okay, all right, ठीक है. So you in the numerator you get 0.2907 divided by this probability of being both being correct, that is 0.781. यहाँ पे evaluate कर लोगे, that is this conditional probability. ठीक है, आपने देख लिया कहाँ पे ये दोनों केसेस कॉमन है, जहाँ पे ऑडियंस से भी पूछ रहे हो और आप जो है वो दोनों आंसर्स करेक्ट भी हैं. That's these three cases. Okay, you divided that by the probability of both questions being correct. That's 0.781. So आपके पास total possibility आ गई. Okay, चाहिए, let me repeat that. I think it's because of the space as well. So let me just write down here. आपके पास देखें 4 possible cases थे in which you were getting both answers correct. ठीक है, ये आपके पास first question लिख रहा हूँ मैं यहाँ पे. ठीक है, this is the first question. This is the second question. एक possibility is you got both correct और वो खुद से उसने correct answers दे दी. एक possibility है उसने पहला खुद correct दिया, दूसरा audience ने correct दिया. एक possibility है उसने पहला audience ने correct दिया, दूसरा उसने खुद correct दिया. And the fourth possibilities, पहला audience ने correct दिया और दूसरा friend ने correct दिया. हर एक की different हमने probabilities निकाली हुई हैं. 0.7 into 0.7 ये था, ठीक है. This was 0.7 into asking for help or audience answering correctly, that was 0.95. Audience answering correctly, 0.2 help wala, then 0.95, or answering correctly himself, that was 0.7. And the last possibility was 0.2 into 0.95 and then 0.2. into 0.65. Just confirm 0.2 into 0.95. Okay, so these are the four possibilities that you had for answering both questions correctly. ये चार possible cases बनते थे आपके पास, ठीक है? अब वो आपसे क्या कह रहा है? Find the probability that you ask the audience. अब उसने ये नहीं कहा किस क्वेश्चन में ऑडियंस से पूछा है, किसी भी क्वेश्चन के अंदर अगर आपने ऑडियंस से पूछा, given that both questions were answered correctly, ये कंडीशनल प्रोबेबिलिटी है, राइट? तो कंडीशनल प्रोबेबिलिटी का फॉर्मूला क्या होता है? दोनों का इंटरसेक्शन, राइट? सो आस्क द ऑडियंस, उसको मैं ए से रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा हूं, इंटरसेक्शन बोथ करेक्ट डिवाइड बाय द प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ बोथ बीइंग करेक्ट। ये हमें फिगर आउट करना है। अब बोथ बीइंग करेक्ट की प्रोबेबिलिटी तो उसने पिछले पार्ट में हमसे निकलवाई है, दैट वाज द सम ऑफ ऑल दीस फोर नंबर्स, इन चारों नंबर्स का सम था वो, that was turning out to be 0.7807। इंटरसेक्शन कैसे निकालेंगे दोनों की? ये चारों केसेस हैं, पॉसिबल केसेस जहां पे आपके दोनों क्वेश्चन करेक्ट है। ऑडियंस से कहां पे पूछा आपने, किस केस में पूछा है? इस केस में भी पूछा है, इस केस में भी पूछा है, इस केस में भी पूछा है। सिर्फ फर्स्ट केस के अलावा बाकी सब केसेस में यू हैव आस्क्ड द ऑडियंस। यू जस्ट ऐड दीज थ्री नंबर्स, इनको ऐड करते हैं, आपके पास आता था see the chat box 0.2907, इन सबको ऐड किया, this number turns out to be 0.2907। then you just evaluate this, 0.2907 divided by 0.7807, that's just the conditional probability formula that we're applying here। ठीक है, इसका रिजल्ट देख लें क्या आता है। so that you guys are telling me it's 0.3722, so इसका रिजल्ट आपके पास आता है 0.3722 or 0.3723, whatever that is. This results in 0.3723, or 0.372 is enough, three significant figures. That is what we get.